Welcome back to all existing subscribers, and anyone that doesn't know me, my name's Ed Bailey and I'm a chartered financial planner. Now this is such an important area and one that has come up a number of times, and it has to do with not having saved any money at various ages, from 35 all the way up to individuals in their 50s. The positive here at age 50 is at least there is still time to get a plan together and save some money. As a stark contrast, I did have a meeting with someone who was renting, which cost approximately £650 per month. They were single, 2 years from their state pension age, and they had retirement savings of just over £15,000, and they no longer wanted to work anymore. Right away, you can identify that with rent of just under £8,000 and a state pension of just over £9,000, it really left nothing at all to live on. This does sound like an extreme example, but it's easy to see how this can happen, and this really isn't that uncommon. They were late starting their pension, having previously never joined one, and they really didn't know the value of it, how it was invested, or the costs. They simply assumed that what was being paid in would be sufficient to provide them with a decent income, and that they would have this in addition to their state pension. Also, they were never in a position to buy and pay down the mortgage on a property. So clearly for that individual, the financial planning will be far more about significant changes in lifestyle, in how long they will be working for, and where ultimately they will live. So first of all, for our 50-year-old with no savings, we need to know what they will be entitled to get. If they have their 35 qualifying years, then we will know they'll get full state pension of just over £9,000. So this is a great start. However, they are looking for a higher income than this. If we go by the PLSA retirement living standards, the minimum retirement living standard is £10,200 for a single person, or £20,200 for the moderate standard of living. So let's look at both of these to see what would be needed to be saved between the ages of 50 and 67 to approximately achieve that level of income, and we'll look at the most tax efficient ways to accumulate it. First stop is clearly to get some money saved to create as big a saving gap as possible, either through increased income or decreased expenses, or ideally a combination of both of these. Reducing expenses is going to come down to budgeting, with an absolutely laser focus on all expenses, and depending on how serious someone was to take this, then there are typically always areas you can find where costs can be reduced or stripped out completely. I would start with the big ones such as the car, then property costs, through to food and so on. Clearly, no one wants to feel like that they are in any way depriving themselves. There is a balance to this. So there is an absolute ton of videos on YouTube on budgeting, so I won't go over this, ground which has been covered a lot before. What is key is that you go into this with high conviction, with a plan, and you stick to the plan and record this monthly. On the flip side of this equation, when we're talking about increasing income, this can be harder, and I see a lot of people talking about side hustles, which I think can be good as long as they don't distract or take away from the opportunities in your main career. For example, if someone can train or gain greater skills that allows for a higher salary, then I would definitely focus on that before taking on side projects. If you're at the ceiling of where you are, then I can see the value of looking at alternative income streams. Just bear in mind that the often suggested passive income is rarely, if ever, that passive. So once we know what percentage of income you can save each month, then I would focus on two things. One, putting some money aside as an emergency fund. This typically is 3 to 4 months expenses. However, I would initially set the target lower to just to get £1,000 stashed away into a cash account. Just have some liquid money you can access easily, but not too easily. Next comes the decision on where the majority of your savings will go. For someone in this position, and to be fair for most individuals, it would be best to avoid anything highly speculative. That's a no to cryptocurrencies, commodities, spread betting, that kind of stuff. Just to avoid all of that and keep this super simple, as there is simply not the time to make up any complete losses. In truth, the greatest gain at this point in time, given the length of time to retirement, will be the contributions going in and not the actual growth rate. It really is about getting started and sticking with it. Clearly, the closer you are to the point of needing to take benefits from the pension, the more reliant you become on the contributions going in as opposed to the growth. As an example, an investment at 5% net return per year after 20 years, then the approximately 40% of that will be investment returns. 5% net return over 5 years, and the investment return is 11% of the final value. In terms of the tax wrapper to allocate this money to, we can have a look at what the tax position of the money going into the savings account will be and the tax position of the money coming out. So here we've got a side-by-side comparison of two common tax wrappers, the personal pension versus the ISA. We've got the same net payment going in of £10,000, same time period, and a 3% net return. So the net payment going into the personal pension is £10,000. The individual is a basic rate taxpayer, so they're going to get 20% tax relief on this money. How that works in practice is that the £10,000 gets paid into the personal pension. The tax relief is then requested back from HMRC, and then that's deposited into the personal pension. So you end up with a total contribution going into the pension of £12,500. Now, after 10 years at 3% net return, that's worth £16,867. The ISA is worth £13,494. Now, we know on exiting, the personal pension is going to have 25% tax-free cash. Now, the remaining 75% is going to get taxed. And in this case, we're assuming basic rate tax is going to get taxed at basic rate, which is £2,500. So the net payment out from the personal pension is going to be $14,337, and from the ISA is $13,494. Now, if this individual was a higher rate taxpayer, then obviously the money going in would be even better off. So we know with putting a side-by-side comparison here in terms of just the tax that the personal pension is able to offer a superior outcome for this individual. With this, the pension simply makes the most sense, and given at age 50 you're only 5 years away from being able to access the funds, the concerns around accessibility really aren't the same as they would be for a 20-year-old. And as we all know, the maximum that can go into a pension is the lower of 100% of relevant earnings, or £40,000 per year. What you should check here is what your employer pension scheme can offer you. Currently, the minimum is 8%, 5% from you and 3% from the employer. Well worth checking if the employer will contribute more if they offer any kind of contribution match or a salary sacrifice scheme in which you can benefit from the national insurance saving. This is also all about looking to max out what is available to you. I would say that for the majority of individuals, their workplace pension will likely be a very cost-effective and perfectly decent pension solution to contribute into. Depending on what your company was able to negotiate, some of these schemes are at a lower cost than actually going to the open market, a solution such as Vanguard. But do also check where you are invested to make sure it is appropriate to your attitude to investment risk, as the default fund solution will not be specific to you. Let's first look at achieving the minimum level, which is £10,200 per year. Clearly, with a full state pension of around £9,000 per year, this level is easily achievable and would really only need an income of approximately £900 per year, which in this case would equate to an approximate fund value of only £25,000. But bearing in mind this is the minimum, and I'll link the PLSA Retirement Living Standards document down below that shows what this is. The contribution, as I'll show you here, would be around £100 gross per month based on 3% net return. We've built 2% inflation into this. It becomes a bit more of a stretch when a total income of £20,000 is required, as this would need a pension income of approximately £1,000 per month, or 12 grand per year, which would equate to an approximate fund value of £250,000. In order to get there, we would need contributions of £1,000 gross per month based on 3% net return. If we were to assume a salary of £45,000, which is slightly below average for a 50-year-old, then the contribution of 8% would equate to £3,600 gross per year. To hit £1,000 per month based on 45 grand, they would need to contribute a further 18% for a total gross contribution from their salary of 26%. Please bear in mind that these aren't the only planning opportunities, especially where there is property involved, which you own outright, for example, through downsizing or through equity release. Thanks so much for watching. Please do let me know in the comments below should you have any questions at all.